Welcome everyone to another episode of No Man's Game. I'm your host, Wesley, and I'm joined here with...
Daniel, your other host.
And
Jen.
So, if you're wondering why I sound so clear unlike last episode, I'm Daniel and I are recording this in person, and as you can tell, Jen's on Discord. So...
Yeah.
If Jen's audio is a little bit shaky, that's why.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So after we're going to be posting a normal episode of No Man's Game after this, but we just wanted to tell you this is a new series called Quickies where we talk about other mediums such as movies, TV shows, books, cards, etc. And so today's episode is going to be about the movie Doctor Strange.
And real quick, this is just, right, as Wesley said, this is kind of a separate kind of outshoot of No Man's Game. So these are No Man's Game Quickies, and we'll be talking about all other kinds of medium. So.
Yeah, this will be shorter. It'll be like 15, 20 minutes, so shorter than a normal 50, 45-minute No Man's Game episode. So today we're going to be talking about Doctor Strange, and there are going to be some spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, see the movie. It's a good movie, and then listen to this. So
yeah. Beware of spoilers.
So let's get into our first part. Our pros. I mean, we all here liked it. So, Daniel, why don't you start?
Well, yeah, let's start with our favorite parts. So, my favorite part, I'd have to say my favorite part is actually, and this is kind of, I didn't think about this until now, but I'd say my favorite part is actually the beginning of the movie. I really liked how they set it up, and how they set up his character.
Yeah, it's definitely unique. For my favorite part, I have to say, I really liked the ending where Doctor Strange confronts Mumamu, and he like keeps reversing time, saying Mumamu, let's make a deal. Reverses time, gets killed, then reverses time. I thought that's a very interesting concept, and I know Daniel said he's seen that before on Doctor Who, but for me, that was a really unique concept, and I really liked it. Jen?
Yeah, so I think I also like how Daniel's kind of idea on the beginning of the movie, how the Ancient One kind of pushes Strange's astral body out of his physical form.
Oh, that was so cool.
And then,
that trippy almost like beginning of a James Bond movie.
I
like,
know, right?
That kind of thing.
Yeah, that could be the beginning to Spectre almost.
And another cool thing about that was it was actually the fractals that were in that were actually pretty scientifically accurate.
Yeah, again, to reference game theory, he made a video about how it's scientifically accurate.
And we'll link that down below. There's probably going to be a lot of game theory references in this series just because we're talking about games or other medium.
Also, the one thing
that was a film theory episode, by the way. Yeah,
film theory. They're both, the same, but...
Yeah.
So also one thing I just have to say, the post-credit scene, the first one, not the second one, but the first one with Thor...
The mid-credit scene.
Yeah, the mid-credit scene. I thought that was very entertaining when he was with Thor and the beer mug kept filling up. I really liked that.
Right, and that gives us some reference into what Thor Ragnarok, which is the next Thor movie coming out. That's coming out in 2017, right?
17 or 18, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 17. It gives us some insight for that, too, which is good.
Yeah. Also, another thing to kind of tie into the MCU in general, another Infinity Stone has been revealed in the Time Stone, and I'll let Daniel explain that.
It's, they revealed the, Time Infinity Stone, and that's in the Eye of, what is it? Eye of what?
The Eye of Agamotto.
Agamotto,
yeah.
There you go. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, because, in a bit here we're going to talk about the effects on the MCU from this movie, but it is cool that they revealed another Infinity Stone.
Wait, so that's when Thanos can combine.
Right, and we'll talk about that a little bit later.
So, but one thing I just have to say, I mean, for me personally, this is my personal opinion. I did not like Civil War, which we could do a quickie on that in the future, but I just generally didn't like that movie. And after seeing this, it's really... how would you say?
Revived your
revived my faith in the MCU because I really like.
Because you were kind of giving up on the MCU a little bit after that.
Yeah, but I really liked it because it was stuff like Avengers 2 and Civil War that kind of made me lose a bit of faith. But after seeing that, I thought it was great, and it kind of reminded me of Ant-Man and Guardians, maybe just because it was original character. There was no, it was no like team up movie, and I know there's gonna be a team up movie with Doctor Strange, but personally, I think Daniel and I both agree on this. The pacing wasn't the greatest.
Yeah, and this movie was so good.
Yeah, it really was. We're not saying it's a bad movie, but
it's amazing that this is the only criticism I have is just that me and all of us kind of thought this. It was we all saw the movie together. It was a little bit rushed, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, or like you never got a sense of time. I looked it up. His training lasted about a year, but you never really got a sense of time. He could have been training for like a
2
month.
weeks. Yeah,
exactly.
For all I know, he could have been training for like 3 weeks, and I wouldn't have known.
Or the Mumamu scene, which was my favorite in the movie. They never really told you how long he'd been repeating time. Because if they did something like 10 trillion times later, it would have been like, wow, he's been trying to defend the world for so long. He
actually like annoyed the main villain to death. I mean, not to death, but you know what I'm saying.
To eventually just give up.
Wait, sorry, are we talking about the Dormammu and, like, the ending now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean...
Wesley's been saying Marmamu the whole time, but that's fine.
Sorry, I don't know I mean, I only watch the Marvel films. I've only read a comic, like, once.
Oh, so then can I talk about this part now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Caecilius, the bad guy, yeah, so because I think Mordo, that's the black guy, he said that in the dark dimension, time does not exist. So that means that if Doctor Strange introduced time in the dark world where Dormammu was, that would give him like a huge advantage, don't you think?
Yeah, I never really thought about that.
Yeah, that is part of why it ended up that way. But I'd still like to know how many repetitions of this ongoing cycle were there. Like, I mean, in the movie, it only really gives you a grasp of, it's according to the, like, if you just look at the footage, it's a long shot to say it happened 100 times.
You could say he was only doing it for like an hour.
Yeah, you could say he was only there for like, in real time an hour. But, it would be so good to know that he was there, that he did that trillions and trillions of times over, just wearing down a little bit at a time. And if you guys don't know, I'm a huge Doctor Who fan, and there's just one episode, I won't give you too many spoilers, but there's just one episode of Doctor Who in the most recent season that did that really well.
The same kind of concept.
It was the same kind of concept. It was a bit different, and I won't spoil it at all, because it was a great episode. But it did the same thing, but it did it better, because, like, you guys probably, not all of you watch Doctor Who, but, it was really, really good. So I think they could have done it better if they showed some progression of time, or some progression of how many repetitions there were.
So if there was, like, a text that said, like, 2 hours later, would that be better?
Not like that, but I mean, in this episode, and I'll try not to spoil too much, it was like the Doctor would like see the stars every time, and he would be like, because he wouldn't remember it every time, so he'd be like, if I didn't know any better, it would be 200 years that I've traveled, and then every time he would keep on saying more and more time until he was like, it's been 30 trillion years, how have I traveled in time? But he didn't really travel in time, it was just he'd been there for 30 trillion years.
Yeah, something like that would have definitely been nice, but now let's get into the part about the effect it has on the MCU. Obviously, we've said that the Time Stone has been revealed, and there weren't too many references. They mentioned the Avengers once, and obviously there was Thor, but there's also the post-credit scene, which could be setting up Thor Ragnarok or a possible Doctor Strange 2, or some kind of threat in the other movies, where, what was his name? It was the, African-American guy. I didn't say black like Jen, but, the African-American guy, he might have, never mind. But, so what happens is, he kind of gives up on the whole concept after the Ancient One dies, and he learns that she's been taking power from the Dark Realm.
No. He's, like, disgusted that, like, Doctor Strange and the Ancient One, like, didn't like think of the consequences of like to call it messing up with like nature or whatever.
He's basically the point is he's
lost
so
faith.
no he's so focused on what the point of the sorcerers is that he thinks that the sorcerers are the problem. He thinks the sorcerers are on a mission to destroy themselves, and he's trying to help with that in his own mind.
Yeah, so, and that's kind of why I feel like the concept of a villain thinking what he's doing is the right thing. I feel like that's an interesting concept.
I mean, it's debatably, it's debatable that all villains have some concept of that. I mean, not all of them, but I mean,
do you
could say Ultron had some concept of that because his idea of saving the world was destroying it.
But like someone like Loki, he knew he was just doing it to cause chaos.
Yeah, and it is always better when the villain there's some gray area in there. You know what I'm saying? It's possible. And I know referencing to Civil War, which I know you didn't love. It was still good that there was some gray area in that movie.
Well, no, that was kind of interesting, and also something I gotta say. Actually, to bring Pokemon into this, with some leaders of the evil teams in Black and White, the lead. Well, who's the evil leader in those games?
What's his name? I forget his name.
But
it's different according to which game, but
pretty much the leader of Black and White, the evil leader. He was insane, and he knew what he was doing was wrong. But in like Diamond and Pearl, the evil leader, he's doing it, or like the teams from,
or like Team Rocket, who's basically just the mob.
No, yeah, they're evil. But teams like Aqua and Magma, they think they're doing a good thing by cleansing the world. But they're just misguided, and obviously they learn their consequences after they've awakened Kyogre or Groudon.
And that's an interesting analogy with comparison with Pokemon Sun and Moon. I mean Pokemon in general. But still, that is good that they put some moral gray area into the backstory of the. I guess everyone thinks that's gonna be the villain in the next Doctor Strange, right?
Yeah, definitely. And so with that guy, because the post-credit scene is him going to the guy what was the deal with him? His like legs were what was it?
Yeah, he was paralyzed down.
Yeah, and he used magic to walk, and so pretty much what he did was he stole his magic that allowed him to walk and stuff like that, and then he took it for himself, which is kind of leading into his rise to villainy.
Yeah, and one more thing I want to talk. Do you guys have anything else on the effects the movie had on the MCU?
Well, I do definitely, again with Thor Ragnarok, and I definitely feel like he's gonna be in Infinity War, and I don't really think.
You think Doctor Strange is gonna be in Infinity War? Yeah, I think so too.
I don't think there's gonna be any effects. Because the thing is that unlike in say Age of Ultron, where they practically destroy a city, in Doctor Strange, he just uses the Time Stone to reverse everything, so it's not going to be a whole Civil War thing.
I love that about the movie. And I meant to say this earlier. This is like the only Marvel movie where there are, in the entire movie, calculating everything, there's probably only like 5 casualties.
Yeah, well, I think the only person he really killed was the guy when he was trying to defend the London sanctuary.
There were other deaths. But still, it's not a Avengers-esque scenario where there's this big battle and there's lots of collateral damage. No, this is a movie where a hero defeats a villain with bargaining and no one dies.
And I feel like that's interesting, because in most Marvel movies, they have the big fight, and then it's kind of resolved. I mean, is there really any other Marvel movies where the good guy and the bad guy don't fight, and the good guy wins, and they don't, like, bargain? I mean, other than Civil War, kinda. Well, kinda Civil War, but there was really no villain in it.
Sorry, I'm getting messages from Roberto. 1 second.
Oh, yeah, shout out to Roberto. The nicest thing he's ever said in his life was complimenting this podcast.
Yeah, true. He gave this podcast an 8.69 out of 10.
Yeah, so that's good on you, Roberto. So I think we don't really have too much else to say about Doctor Strange.
You have one thing to say though.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I kind of like the transition on like timelines of Doctor Strange. So you know how first he just wanted to fix his hands?
Yeah.
and then he goes to Kamatai. That's the name of the place.
Yeah.
Okay. Jen, you know a ton about this movie, more than I do.
Jen did his research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
so
watched
he's changing timelines from like trying to fix his hands and then becoming a sorcerer.
Yeah.
Well, that's how a lot of superhero movies are. Like, think about Ant-Man. In Ant-Man, Paul Rudd, I forgot what his actual name is, but Paul Rudd, he goes from being this crook to getting involved in being a superhero. And that's how some superhero movies work. Kind of like with Captain America and Iron Man, they know what they're getting into. You know, I guess you could say like Captain America, Steve Rogers voluntarily said, I want to be a superhero. You know, I want to get strong and punch Nazis.
Yeah. So, any other comments on how it affected the MCU?
Not really. I think we should probably wrap it up because we don't have too much to say about it unless anybody...
The one other thing I wanted to say is that I really liked the acting in this movie.
I thought it was
very
that
good.
was great, actually.
Yeah.
And I liked most of the characters too. Like it's hard to find a Marvel movie where I like all the characters.
I felt like they kind of needed to flesh out the main love interest a little bit more. But besides that, I definitely agree.
You think they should have put more highlight on it? No,
I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like they should have maybe done some more of a connection besides like the whole watch thing. Because it's just kind of like, you know, he's like, he yells at, you know, their friends. They might date. He gets paralyzed.
Yeah, he
yells at her, and then like a year later, he's like injured, and he's like, "Oh, I'm a wizard now." And so then like they go to the hospital. They meet one more time, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, I think they wanted to make the love interest a little bit less of a play in the movie because I think with this movie they were trying to stray away from a lot of cliches.
No, I definitely agree, but I feel like they either they should have, maybe it would have been cool if that was something like that, something that he left behind in his old life, and that when he went from being Stephen Strange to Doctor Strange.
Okay. Well, that's our thoughts on the movie. we'll leave that at that.
Please check out. We're about to, along with this episode, at the time of this recording, but we're about to do another episode on the Nintendo Switch.
And we might upload that before this. But hopefully you guys heard that or are going to hear that. Please leave a like on this podcast, whether you're on YouTube or SoundCloud. If you're on either or, check out the other one, or the Gameaholics. And
on the YouTube channel, for the next month, it's just gonna be only No Man's Game. And then starting in late December, we're going to start making Let's Plays.
Yeah, so be ready for our gaming to go beyond the podcast starting in about late December.
Yeah.
So hopefully you all enjoyed. Please like, and if you're on SoundCloud, repost. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe. And on SoundCloud, follow.
Drama Alert Nation, now over 9 subscribers. Hey guys, this is Wesley. I just wanted to add that we now have an Instagram. Links to that in the description. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next episode. Bye.